Hello students, today we are going to deal with a next lesson number 3, discovering that the saga continues from the class 11 Hornbill, lesson 3, discovering Tut, finding out facts about Tut. So who is Tut? Tut was a great Greek king, and the king in Greek was called Pharaoh. So that was a great Greek Pharaoh king. There is mystery around his death, and historians are not sure about the reason how he died so young. He was an important Greek king of a great dynasty. Do you know dynasty? The rule of dynasty, Babur, Humayun, Akbar, like that. So from one family line, the kings are ascending the throne. That is called a dynasty, rule of one family. So through scientific forensic reconstruction, legal scientific methods permitted by law, that is forensic reconstruction. So, with the help of science, archaeology is a branch of history. We are historians try to find out old things. So, archaeological department tried to investigate Tut's mystery. So that is discovering Tut, mystery of Tut. The great tale, saga continues, I think. So I will start this lesson with the introduction that is given on page number 25 about CT scanner. CT scan machine, it is common today, but it was not so common when a portable CT scan machine was given, and it has changed archaeology. Archaeology has changed substantially, means it has changed a lot in the intervening decades, in the last some decades, focusing less on treasure and more on the fascinating details of life and intriguing mysteries of death. It also uses more sophisticated tools like CT scanner, X-rays, and medical technology is also used in the field of archaeology. In 1968, more than 40 years after Carter's discovery, so I will tell you in detail about Carter's discovery. Who was Carter? James Carter, English historian. English historian. Jim Carter was an English historian. So, Carter discovered, who was Jim Carter? The British archaeologist, Howard Carter. Carter is not. This is Howard Carter. H-O-W-A-R-D. H-O-W-A-R-D. Howard Carter. He was an English historian, archaeologist. So he discovered Tut's mummy for the first time in 1920s. In 1922, Is that clear? So, today diagnostic imaging can be done with computed tomography. CT scan is called computed tomography or CT scan, by which hundreds of X-rays in cross-section are put together like slices of bread to create a three-dimensional virtual body. What more would a CT scan reveal of TUT than the X-ray? It is more powerful than the X-ray. It can create a three-dimensional image. And it was done, CT scan was done with a purpose, with the objective, twin objective, two objectives. The biggest questions: how did he die and how old was he at the time of his death? So these were the two questions. Is that clear? So CT scan was done. Archaeology has changed and it decided to do the CT scan. On the day after 80 years of the discovery, on 5th January 2005. So it was done in the evening because in daytime it is very hot there. The place is very hot and windy because that is a desert place. On page number 23 you can see, angry wind stirred up ghostly dust devils, figurative use of language. Angry wind stirred, moved, ghostly dust devils, the devils of dust, dust like devils, as King Tut was taken from his resting place, as if nature was showing fury. Fury means anger, F-U-R-Y, fury, F-U-R-Y, fury, nature's anger. Yes. The world's most famous mummy, gilded head first into CT scanner, brought here to probe the lingering medical mysteries of this little understood young ruler who died more than 3,300 years ago. So this happened on that day. The introduction is given. So about Tut, he was just a teenager when he died. The last heir of a powerful family, dynastic rule. He means here Tut, that had ruled Egypt and its empire for centuries. His family had ruled over centuries. He was laid to rest, laden with gold. As per the custom, he was too much gold, he was buried with too much gold because people believed that they can carry these items in their afterlife, in the next life, life after death. So with this view, people were buried with much wealth and the utility items. And as he was a great king, so historians have this speculation, this guesswork that he could have been murdered because he was so young. And there is some religious point of view also. So since 80 years or more than 100 years, you can say now, it was discovered in 1922, and CT scan was done after 80 years in 2005. So who was this man and what is so important about him? We will see. You will read this in history on page number 25th, so the last paragraph. From the last paragraph you will learn about Tut. What was his full name? King Tut's demise was a big event, even by royal standards. He was the last of his family line. And his funeral was the death rattle of a dynasty. Rattle means that is shaking, that is falling down with noise. But the particulars of his passing away and its aftermath are unclear. mystery. So we will go somewhat before him, how in what situations he died. Amenhotep III, Tut's father or grandfather, was a powerful pharaoh who ruled for almost 4 decades. At the height of the 18th dynasty's golden rule, his son Amenhotep IV succeeded him and initiated one of the strangest periods in the history of Greek, ancient Egyptian history. The new pharaoh promoted the worship of Aten, the sun disk, the sun worship, and changed his name to Akhenaten, or servant of Aten, the sun, and moved the religious capital from the old city of Thebes to the new city of Akhenaten, now known as Amarna. The city is now known as Amarna. The new king changed. He further shocked the country by attacking Amun, a major god. The Amun means the moon god, major god, smashing his images and closing his temples. It must have been a horrific time, said Ray Johnson, director of the University of Chicago's Research Center in Luxor, the site of ancient Thebes. The family that had ruled for centuries was coming to an end, and then Akhenaten went a little wakey. The king had gone mad. Wakey means mad, insane. After that change, the king changed the religious order, the capital. After that, Akhenaten's death, a mysterious ruler named Smenkhkare appeared briefly and exited with hardly a trace, and then a very young Tutankhaten took the throne. Aten, the sun god, worshipper of sun. And the King Tut, as he is widely known today, is Tutankhaten. So as I told you, he changed the old order, tried to restore the old order, and his name, the young boy Tutankhaten, took the throne. King Tut, as he is widely known today, the boy king soon changed his name to Tutankhamun. So Tutankhamun, a major god of the old days, living image of Amun, it is oversaw a restoration of the old ways. He reigned for about 9 years and then he unexpectedly died. So historians are baffled. Regardless of his fame and the speculations about his fate, Tut is one mummy among many in Egypt. There are mummy project in Egypt, and which counted mummy project, Egyptian mummy project, and which has started inventory checklist of the mummies in 2003 and has recorded 600 so far, and is still counting the next phase, scanning the mummies with a portable CT machine donated by National Geographic Society and Siemens, its manufacturer of the CT scan machine, and by National Geographic Society. Both donated this machine to the Egyptian mummy project, which is now recorded more than 600 mummies. They are to be scanned, and Tut's mummy is the first to be scanned, as he is the king. So about this, one more thing is very important to note. the mummy is in a bad condition because of what Carter did in 1920s, said Jahi Hawass, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, as he leaned over the body for a long first look. Howard Carter, that is one of the British archaeologist who in 1922 discovered that tomb after years of futile searching. Futile means useless. He wandered here and there uselessly, but ultimately found this mummy. Its contents, though hastily ransacked in antiquity, were surprisingly complete. They remain the richest royal collection ever found and have become part of the pharaoh's legend. Stunning artifacts in gold, whatever the stories they heard, that proved to be true, even after so much of ransacking, looting. That was the complete mummy with all the ritual things and other things, and testifying the story that goes with the mummies, that kings and other persons were buried with much gold and much wealth and other artifacts, daily use items, other things. So you can see this stunning artifacts in gold, their eternal brilliance meant to guarantee resurrection. Resurrection means rebirth, caused a sensation at the time of discovery and still get the most attention. But it was also buried with everyday things that you'd want in afterlife. Board games, chess games, board, that game played on board, like chess, ludo, or like that in olden days. A bronze razor, linen undergarments, cases of food and wine, boxes of cases, wine and food. So with these things and much of gold, brilliance of gold. So after months of careful recording the pharaoh's funerary treasures, Carter began investigating his three-nested coffin, three-layered coffin. Opening the first, he found a shroud adorned with garlands of yellow and olive leaves, wild celery, lotus petals, and cornflowers, and faded evidence of a burial in March or April, that he concluded. When he finally reached the mummy, though he ran into trouble, the ritual regimes had hardened, cementing death to the bottom of his solid gold coffin. It was solid gold, the coffin, the box, gold. No amount of legitimate force could move them. Carter wrote later, what was to be done? The sun can beat down like a hammer this far south in Egypt, and Carter tried to use it to loosen the regimes, to remove the body from the box. For several hours, he set the mummy outside the blazing sunshine that heated it to 149 degrees Fahrenheit, but nothing happened. That did not work. He reported with the scientific detachment that the consolidated material had to be chiseled away. Then he had to use an iron rod and hammer to put it, and that broke, chiseled away from beneath the limbs, body parts, hands and legs from beneath the limbs and trunk before it was possible to raise the king's remains, king's body. Gold coffins removed from his body by force, using physical force. So people have circumvented thieving cases and other things, guards and others ripped gold. They have torn gold from this, or in this way it was not possible to leave this in unsafe conditions. So Carter removed the body and removed the other items. Carter wrote that I have to do this, the mummy free. Thieves most certainly would have circumvented the guards and ripped it apart to remove the gold. In that time, the royals were fabulously wealthy, and they thought or hoped they could take their riches with them in the next life. For his journey to the great beyond, King Tut was lavished with, profusely given with, lavished, glittering gold, precious collars, inlaid necklaces and bracelets, rings, amulets, ceremonial aprons, sandals, sheaths for his fingers and toes, and now iconic inner coffin and mask, all of pure gold. To separate that from this ornaments, decoratives, Carter's men removed the mummy's head and severed nearly every major bone joint. Once they had finished, they reassembled the remains on a layer of sand in a wooden box with padding that concealed the damage The bed where that now rests. Now that rests in a wooden box, and his original things were taken away by the department, archaeological department. And archaeology has changed, and it is going to do so you know about that, so you know about the history and culture of ancient Greek. And now we will see the CT scan. Regardless, a CT scan machine scanned the mummy head to toe, creating 1,700 digital X-ray images in cross-section. That's head scanned in 0.62 millimeter slices to register its intricate structures. Takes on eerie detail in the resulting image. It remains weird, not clear, but Tutt's entire body similarly recorded a team of specialists in radiology, X-rays, forensics and anatomy began to probe the secrets that had winged goddesses of gilded burial shrine protected for so long. Tutt's mummy was engraved with goddesses, and Egyptian gods and goddesses are very famous. You can say, you can find their names also in the last. They are guarding him. Constellation of Orion's, the soul of Osiris, the god of afterlife, and the god of death. They are all guarding, but they failed to protect his mummy. They failed to keep Tut in peace. He was disturbed many times. And so, you see, in 1968, in 1968, more than 40 years after Carter's debris, an anatomy professor x-rayed the mummy and revealed a startling fact, surprising fact, beneath the resins that caked his chest, that his breastbone and front ribs are missing. So this was a very startling discovery. But nothing was found in the CT scan. Everything was found okay. On the night of the scan, workmen carried Tut from tomb in his box like pallbearers. Pallbearers, you know, those who carry the dead bodies or the palanquin. They climbed a ramp and a flight of stairs into the swirling sand outside, then rose on a hydraulic lift into the trailer and held the scanner. 20 minutes later, two men emerged, sprinted for an office nearby and returned with a pair of white plastic fans. The $1 million scanner had quit because of sand in a cooler fan that had stopped working, that had developed some malfunctioning. And people laughed. They said, "Curse of the Pharaoh," joked a guard nervously, that those who try to disturb, they will have to face the consequences. Eventually, the substitute, it is just here, it is given on page number 23. Pharaoh's curse, shivering with Pharaoh's curse, people watched him. Death or misfortune falling upon those who disturbed him. Was that really true? And this was partially true, because the fan did not work, the machine developed malfunctioning. Eventually, the substitute fans worked well enough to finish the procedure. After checking that no data had been lost, the technicians turned that over to workmen, who carried him back to his tomb less than 3 hours after he was removed from the coffin. Just within 3 hours, he was again laid back to his coffin. The pharaoh again rested in peace, where the funerary priests had laid him so long back, 3,300 years ago. And back in the trailer, a technician pulled up astonishing images that were seen on a computer screen. The grey head took shape from the scattering of pixels, and the technician spun and tilted it in every direction. Neck vertebrae appeared as clearly as in an anatomy class. Anatomy is medical, where you learn about the physical structure of the body. Other images revealed a hand, several views of the rib cage, and a transection of the skull. But for now the pressure was off and the Jahi Hawass was now relaxed. Who is Jahi Hawass? He is the Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities. Zahi Hawass is the head of the Egyptian antiquities, supreme head of the antiquities. He relaxed and he said, I didn't sleep last night because I was tense for the CT scan. I was so worried, but now I think I will go and sleep. By the time we left the trailer, descending going down to the metal stairs to the sand ground, the wind has stopped, the winter air lay cold and still in desert areas, nights are very cold. The winter air lay cold and still like death itself in this valley of the departed, valley of the dead. Just above the entrance to that storm stood Orion, the constellation that the ancient Egyptians knew as the soul of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, watching over the boy king. So the reporter had given you the details of the CT scan in this chapter.